Good afternoon, all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. So before getting into today's session, so let me have a quick recap of the previous session. Okay, thank you all. So just a small question. So on a previous topic, so what is an object? You can reply in the chat box. What is an object? Yes, object is a variable, can be any real world entity. Exactly, Arun Kumar sir. Yes, ma'am. Vedanayagi, ma'am. Real world entities. So, yes, object is an real world entity. Yes, exactly. And next question is how to represent a private variable. So, in last session under encapsulation, you have been introduced to declaring a private variable. Yes, exactly, Pavan sir and Chandrasekhan sir. Yes, using double underscore. So, you have to declare your private member. Yes, exactly. And last question, what is encapsulation? Yes, Nandini Praveen is right. What is encapsulation? Binding object, protect to access code, wrapping data and methods. Yes, all are right. Yes, protection. Yes, sir. Binding data and code. Yes, exactly. All are right. So with that note, today's topic is also going to revolve around object and what is an reference variable, right? So this is the agenda of today's session. We are going to discuss on the basics of object-oriented programming, in particular about a reference variable. So what is a reference variable? That is our first objective of discussion. Second is so using objects, how to use objects. So either you can use by passing it as a reference, so pass by reference, or using self or collection of objects. So you can pass it as a like list, you can pass it. So this is the overall objective of today's session. So first, so reference variable. So we know how to create an object in Python. So object in Python need to be created with the following syntax. So here object in Python will be created with the following syntax. So here mobile. So this is your class name, and after that you are having your open bracket and close bracket. So this is your class name, right? So equal to, and we are having. So when you are declaring, when you are giving like this, so mobile of open bracket close bracket. So mobile is your class name. So object will be created, right? So object will be created. In order to use that particular object, we have to create a reference variable for that object. So here we are having mob. So this is your reference variable. So using which we can access the object created for this particular class called mobile. So mob is nothing but the reference variable. So using which you can access the objects. So here this is the syntax for object creation, so that we all know. So mobile, this is the class name. So if we have a class called mobile, so we are creating object for that particular class. So using class name followed by open bracket and close bracket. So if you want to pass any parameter to the constructor of this particular class, you can provide it here, right? So object will be created. So object will be created. So in order to use that particular object, we have to create a reference variable for that. So how we are creating? So object creation. So equal to, in the left hand side, you are giving the reference variable. So this is your reference variable through which you can access the object created for this particular class. So for example, so here we are having a class called mobile, right? So we are having, I hope you all know, so this is the constructor part. So def underscore underscore init underscore underscore. So we are having a constructor here. So just a constructor inside this particular class called mobile. So nothing else. We are having only a constructor inside this class. So next is I'm creating object. So mobile of 50,000 comma apple. So what will happen? So 50,000 is passed to this price and the apple is passed to brand, and later it will be assigned to price and brand. So here we have created an object. So how to use this object further, right? So we have created an object and we have initialized the values for that particular object, but later on how to use that particular attributes of that particular object. So that is not possible if you have not created a reference variable. So in order to access or in order to use whatever the object that we have created, so we have to come up with a reference variable. So only with the help of that reference variable, you can access the object attributes, right? So that is the main point. So after the above line, so we cannot access the object. Yes, after that, it is not possible to access the object anymore. So that is the problem. So in order to use that, we have to create a reference variable. So here, this is a case. So we are having an object. We are having an object called balloon, right? We are having an object called balloon. So if you're not tying a particular rope to this particular balloon, usable, right? So this particular object is not usable if we not tied any rope to it. So it will fly in the air and we can't able to catch it. So it is not usable if we not tied any rope to this particular balloon. So that is the job of a reference variable here. So we are having an object. So for that object, we are tying a rope to it. So what is happening? So with the help of this rope, you can access this particular object. So this is just a sample, not exactly. So here, so object, so we are creating an object, but without a reference variable, it is not possible to access the object. So that is the importance of reference variable. So we have to create a reference variable in order to access the object. So similarly, an object can have multiple reference variable in the sense that, so for example, in the previous case, we had like this. So mob equal to mobile of, right? So for a particular object, we have created a reference, right? So like that, you can have multiple references to a single object. So here, so mobile, this is the object. We have created an object and mob is the reference variable. This is the reference variable, right? So we are assigning the same reference, that is mob to mob1, mobile 1, right? So here what is happening? So both are referring to the same object, that is your mobile, this class object. So both we are assigning mob, that is the this reference variable, to mob1, so mobile1. So both mobile, that is mob, and mob1, so both are referring to the same object. So an object can have multiple reference variable. So if you are, I have assigned like this, right? So I have assigned like this. So that is mob1 equal to mob. So that is the second point. When an already created object is assigned to a reference variable. So mob is the already object created object. So that if it is assigned to a reference variable, new object will not get created. Why? Because is that, so both are referring to the same object. So new object is not getting created at that time, right? So if you change attribute of one object, so through the reference, it reflects in other variable also. So for example, I will demonstrate it with a program. So here, for example, so you are having a balloon, so that is the object, balloon that as an object. So you are having, you may tie more than one rope to the same balloon. So with any of that, you can access the object. So more than one reference variable. So for a single object, for a particular object, you may have more than one reference variable, right? So that is the case in real time also. So this is another example. So here there is a guy. So let me consider this guy as an object. So he got a promotion. So that can be claimed by anyone, right? So that is different references. So he is referring him as a son, and she is referring her as a boyfriend. So for example, single object, so referred by multiple reference variable, right? So it can be referred by anyone. So this object is same, but it is referred by different references. So let me execute the same with an example. So I'm having so class called mobile. So inside the class we are having a constructor. So def underscore underscore init. So we are having three things. So self. So one is we are going to set the price, and another one is we are going to set the brand. So self dot price equal to price, and self dot brand equal to brand. So we are having only a constructor here. So next is we are going to create an object for this particular constructor. So mob1 is equal to mobile of, so for example, 50,000 comma Samsung, and we are going to assign so mob2 equal to mobile1. So let we have another method. So in order to understand it better, so let we have a print method inside this display. So it is going to print self dot price and self dot brand. So we are having two references. So mobile one dot display and mobile two dot display. So here let me look at this code. So here I have a class called mobile. So in this we are having a constructor. So self, price, and brand are the three parameters that we are passed to this one, right? So I have created object for this particular class. So while creating object, I am passing the parameter. So to initialize the members within the particular class, right? So 50,000. So that is assigned to price, and Samsung, that is assigned to brand. So I have created a reference. So mobile one. So later what I'm doing, so I'm assigning, so mobile one equal to mobile two. So what is happening? So this is a reference variable of a particular object, and I'm assigning that to another variable mobile two. So now what is happening when I'm calling this particular display method using mobile one dot display and mobile two dot display, both are displaying the same values. That is 50,000 Samsung, right? So that is there in the output. So both objects. So this is when mobile one reference variable calls the display method, and this is when mobile two reference variable calls the display method. So this is for mobile one, and this is for reference variable mobile two, right? So both are referring to the same object. So that is the point here. So we can also prove the same using another one. So that is, I'm trying to print the ID of both the objects. So here in the coding part, I have just asked to print the ID of the reference variable mobile one and the ID of the reference variable mobile two, right? So this will display the ID. So just to prove that, so both these objects are referring to, both these reference variable mobile two and mobile one are referring to the same object. So in order to prove that, so I'm just trying to print the ID of the reference variable mobile one and ID of the reference variable mobile two. So here, when you look at the ID of both the reference variable, so both are referring to the same object. So same ID is getting displayed, right? 50658064. So both for mobile one reference variable and mobile two reference variable. So both the IDs are same. It means that both are referring to the same object. So both are referring to the same object. So here we are having mobile one equal to mobile 50,000 Apple. So mobile two equal to mobile one. So what is the observation here? So mobile one and mobile two both are referring to the same object, that is mobile. What are the attributes of this particular object? So we are having 50,000 for price and Apple for brand. So both mobile one and mobile two reference variable will have the same value. So if you want to change the value of the particular um, thing, then that will be reflected in both the cases. So here the example is, so we are trying to change the particular brand name through mobile one reference variable. So mobile one dot brand equal to Samsung. We are changing it, right? So print mobile two dot brand. So as both are referring to the same object, please listen carefully. So I'm telling, so I'm changing mobile one dot brand. So using the mobile one reference variable, I'm changing the brand name as Samsung. But when I try to print the brand name of mobile two reference, then that is printing it as Samsung. So why? Because why this is happening? So as both mobile 1 and mobile 2 reference variable are referring the same object, so if I make any change through one reference variable, that will be reflected in the other. I'm repeating. So as mobile 1 and mobile 2 reference variable are accessing the same object, if I make any change through any one reference variable, so I'm making through mobile 1 reference variable, I'm changing the brand name as Samsung. So when I try to access using mobile 2 reference variable, so the brand name will be changed as Samsung only, because both reference variable are accessing the same object. So let me see this also. So here I'm trying to change the value of mobile 1 dot. So I have already given uh, Samsung here. I'm trying to change it by OnePlus. So here initially we have initialized it as 50,000 and Samsung as the brand name. So later we have again mobile 2 equal to mobile 1. We have assigned like this. So both are referring to the same object. So I have changed the brand name. So through mobile 1 reference variable, I'm changing the brand name as OnePlus. So now I'm trying to print the values using display method. I try to call the display method. So using both reference variable mobile 1 dot display and mobile 2 dot display. So now what is happening? So now what is happening? So initially 50,000 Samsung was there. So later it is actually before also some output is there. So it is changed it like this. So this is the output for mobile 1 reference mob1 dot display. So price is displayed as 50,000 and brand name as OnePlus. So similarly, when I call using mobile 2 reference variable also, so it is displayed as OnePlus. So if both reference variable are referring to the same object, so if I make changes through one reference variable, so that will also get reflected in another reference variable. That is the point. So here, next case. So suppose next is I'm changing the reference again. So mobile 2 equal to, so mobile of Realme. So here, so now look at this case. So we are having mobile 1 equal to mobile of 50,000 comma Samsung. Yes, objective created and the reference variable is mobile 1. So now mobile 1 equal to mobile 2. So what is happening? So both mobile 2 and mobile 1 are referring to the same object of mobile class as of now. So later I'm giving like this mobile 2 equal to mobile of some amount 1,50,000 comma so this is Realme. So we are pausing. So now what is happening? So mobile of we are giving like this. So what is happening? An object is created and the reference variable for that object is mobile 2. So now both mobile 1 and mobile 1 and mobile 2 are not referring to the same object. So initially 8th line padi pathona, so mobile 1 reference object is created. So as per 9th line, what is happening? So both mobile 1 and mobile 2 are referring to the same object. So I'm telling as per 8th line, so mobile 1 reference is created. As per 9th line, what the meaning? So mobile 1 and mobile 2 both are referring to the same object. So as per line 10, so what we are telling is, so we are changing the reference. So mobile 2 reference we are changing. So instead of referring it to the same object, so we have created a separate object for mobile 2. So mobile 2 equal to mobile of 1,50,000, Realme. So no more mobile 2 will refer to mobile 1 anymore. So after 10th statement, so mobile 2 will always refer to a new object. I hope it's clear. So mobile 2 equal to mobile of. So we have given. So this is object is created here and the reference is mobile 2. So before that mobile 2 is referring to the same object, right? Mobile 2 and mobile 1 refer to the same object. But after line number 10, so during line number 10, execution of line number 10, what is happening? An object is created and the reference for mobile reference is assigned to mobile 2. So now mobile 2 will refer to a different object than the previous one. So now mobile 1 will refer to a different object. Mobile 2 will refer to a different object. So if I make any changes in mobile 1 reference, so it will not get reflected in mobile 2. Am I making sense? So this is the point here. So this is the one for mobile 1 and this is for mobile 2. So both are different. Why? Because is that now as of this particular program, so both are referring to different objects. Both mobile 1 reference and mobile 2 reference are referring to different objects. So here I want to demonstrate one more case, that is if I am going to change the value here, so that will not get reflected. So for example, I want to change mobile2 dot brand as, so here, so the same program I just made one modification, that is to demonstrate if I make changes in mobile 2 using mobile 2 reference, that will not get reflected in mobile 1 reference. Why? Because is that, so as per after the 10th line, so both mobile 1 and mobile 2 are referring to different objects. So changes made in one object will not get reflected in the other. So here this is the output. So this is for mobile 1 reference and this is for mobile 2 reference. So after that, I have changed the mobile 2 brand name as OnePlus. So I have changed the mobile 2 brand name as OnePlus. So 1,50,000 price, I didn't make any modification. So price is displayed as such. So I changed the brand name from Realme to OnePlus. So that is getting reflected. So only in mobile 2 reference. So even if I print here mobile 1, so that will not get reflected. So I try to print both mobile 1 reference and mobile 2 reference. So this is for mobile 1 reference and this is for mobile 2 reference. So changes made in mobile 2 reference is not getting reflected in mobile 1 thing. So as both are referring to different object as of now. So here we can also change the reference variable to point to another object. Yes. So during second line, so both mobile 1 and mobile 2 reference are pertaining to or referring to the same object. So when you are giving like this, mobile 2 equal to mobile of 20,000 comma Samsung. So now a new object is created for mobile 2. So both are referring to same different object. Both are referring to different object. So changes made in one object will not be reflected in the other. So this is the again this is an example in comical sense. So in real life also the way referred is not permanent. So initially both mobile 1 and mobile 2 are referred to the same object, right? Refer to the same object. So once, for example, if this is mobile 2 and this is our object earlier, so this is our object. Earlier he is our object and she is mobile 2 reference, right? So we can change the reference at any time. So I broke up, this is my boyfriend now. My boyfriend got a car. So previously her reference is this particular object, right? So now we have created, now a new object is being created and assigned to this particular reference. So now this reference variable mobile 2 is referring this particular object, right? So if you change reference, so the change, if you change the reference, so whatever the change you are making in that particular object, so it will not have any effect on us. So the changes have no effect on us. So whatever the change hereafter, so whatever the mobile 2 reference is making any changes, so that will not get reflected in this object, right? So mobile 2 has changed its reference to this particular person. So whatever the changes hereafter mobile 2 reference is making, so that will not get reflected in this object. So as both are different object, so now whatever the changes mobile 2 is making, it is pertaining only to this particular object and it will not have any impact on this object. So next is object passed by reference. So we know mutable and immutable objects. So in module 1 itself, this has been discussed. In module 1 itself, this has been discussed. So immutable objects. So we are having our int, float, bool, string, tuple are our immutable objects. So for this, we are using call by value method. That is, whatever the change that are making inside the function, that will not reflect outside the function. So if you are using call by value, so what will happen? So if you make any change within the function, so the change is reflected only within the function, not outside the function. Right? So next is we are having mutable objects. So for example, list, set, dictionary. So here that is nothing but call by reference. So call by object reference. So if you are making any changes inside the function, that will get reflected even outside the function. So I will demonstrate this with example. So just remember the point. So immutable objects. So if I'm using call by value method, so what is happening? So if I make any changes inside the function, if I'm making any change inside the function, so that will not reflect outside the function. So if I'm using call by reference method, so if I make any changes inside the function, so it will not reflect outside the function. So when we pass object as an parameter, so changes will reflect outside the function. So here we are having mobile 1 equal to mobile of 50,000 comma Apple. So next is update price of mobile 1. So we are having a method called update price. So this function is being called. So price was initially 50. While object is created, we have initialized the price value as 50,000. So but now we are changing it to. So when you're calling the method update price, so we are changing the mobile price as 70,000. So when you're trying to print mobile one dot price, so what is the value that will get printed? So 70,000 will get printed. So when you are passing object as a reference, so the point is here you are passing object as a reference. Mobile one is nothing but a reference variable. So when you are passing object as a reference, if even if I'm making changes inside the function, so I'm making m dot price equal to 70,000 inside the function. So I'm making changes inside the function. So the changes what I have made that will get reflected even outside the function. So I try to print the mobile one dot price. So the price value I'm printing it outside the function, but I'm making changes inside the function. So even if I'm making changes inside the function, so it will get reflected outside the function also. Then if you are passing object as a reference. So for example, so here I'm trying to use the same. So I'm having a method called def update, and some object is going to be passed to this one, right? So m dot price equal to 78,000. So now I'm trying to call this particular one using mobile to reference. So mobile to, so here I had a class. So here we know we are having two reference variables. So one is mobile one and another one is mobile two. So now I'm calling the update of mobile two. So update method I'm calling. So using mobile two reference. So in mobile two, what is the price value earlier? It is 1,50,000. Now I'm trying to change the price value as 78,000. So now I try to call mobile2 dot display. So the price value initially it was 1,50,000. So after I called the update method, so what is happening? The price value is changed to 78,000. So the point here is when I'm pausing object as a reference. So update as a method function for which you are pausing mobile2, that is reference object as a reference. So mobile 2 is referring to a object only, right? So when you're passing object as a reference, so what I'm doing, I'm making changes inside the function. So m dot price. So for the mobile 2 object, I have changed the price value as 78,000. So that is getting reflected in the original object itself, right? So even if I'm accessing the value of price after the function, so here I'm using mobile2.display. So what is happening? 78,000 is getting displayed, right? So in order to make it clear, I'm doing one more thing. So let I'm declaring inside class mobile, I'm declaring a variable called value. So here I'm having one more variable, that is um, if the self dot, so this is your class variable. So value equal to 5,000. This is your local variable, right? So inside the update method, I have also changed the value equal to 55,000. So this is my local variable. I have changed the value of the local variable as 55,000, right? So I'm making change inside this particular function update. I'm making change inside this particular function update. So whatever the change I have made inside this function, so this will not get reflected. So when I call the value, so mobile dot value, so outside the function, if I'm calling this, so it will not have any impact. So see the output. So see the output. So it is just 5,000. So whatever the change I have made inside the function, so that is not reflected here. That is not reflected here. So this is the power of passing object as a reference. So here, when I'm passing object as a reference, so what is happening? When I'm passing object as a reference, when I'm passing object as a reference, so whatever the changes I'm making inside the function, whatever the changes I'm making inside the function, that is getting reflected in the after the function also. That is getting reflected after the function also. That is getting reflected after the function also. So whenever you are making any change through an object, so that will get reflected, after the function also. So next is self. So when you are using a constructor or function, you are passing one parameter, that is your self. So self refers to the current object that is being executed. Self refers to the current object. So whatever the object you are passing to the function, so that object is called as self. So inside class, so attributes can be created only by using self and dot operator. Otherwise, it is a local variable. So that is what I have demonstrated now. So inside a class, if you use a variable normal, so I have declared a variable called value. So that is a local variable, right? So if you want to use a class operator, class member, then you have to create it using only dot operator, self and dot operator. And very important point that you should remember is self is not a keyword, right? Self is not a keyword. So any name you can use, instead of self. So again, self can be used as a variable name also, right? So self is not a keyword in Python. So it is not mandatory that you should also use self. So as it is a practice, common practice to know it to everybody, so they are using self, but it is not mandatory that you should always use self. So instead of that, you can use any other variable, any other name you can use. So here, the same thing. So I am changing here. So instead of self, so you can give any other name. So here def underscore underscore init underscore underscore I'm yes comma price comma brand. So instead of self, I am passing it as yes. So s dot price equal to price, s dot brand equal to brand. So self is not a keyword in Python. So instead of self, you can use any name. So instead of self, you can use any name. So self is not a keyword in Python. So you can use like this. So even after I'm changing the syntax also, I'm getting the same output. Right? Suppose you can, whether you can use self as a variable. Yes, that is also possible. So here, so here, s comma self. So instead of price, I have changed the name of this to self. So s dot price equal to self. As self is not a keyword, you can use it like any other variable. All right. So yes, it refers to current object. So current object price is self and current object brand is brand. So here self I have used like any other normal variable. So instead of price, I have used it as self here. So you can use self as any other variable name. So there is no problem in that. So what you should remember, so you should remember that self is not a keyword in Python. So instead of self, you can use any other name. That is possible. So second thing is like any other variable name, you can also use self as a variable name, right? Self you can use as a variable name. So that's the point. So here it is not a keyword. Self is not a keyword. So like any variable can be used in place of self. So in the place of self, you can use it. Anything you can use, right? So now it's your turn. So predict the output of this particular program. So here, what will be the output of this one? So you can't exactly predict the output. So what will be the output of this particular program? Sorry. So you can give the answers in the chat box. So what will be the output? So I'm not asking the exact output. I'm just asking the what will be the output of this particular program. So here, as per this program, so we are having so mobile one equal to mobile of 50,000 comma Apple, and mobile 2 equal to mobile of 30,000 comma Samsung. So here we are printing only the ID of mobile 1 and ID of mobile 2. So whether both are same, ID of mobile 1 and ID of mobile 2. So whether both, so here ID of mobile 1 and ID of mobile 2, so both are not same. So why both are referring to different objects, obviously, right? So def underscore underscore init self comma price comma brand. So we are printing ID of mobile one. So ID of mobile one. So here what is printing? So when object is created, so mobile of 50,000 comma Apple. So this will be called, right? So now at that time it will print ID of self. So current object, ID of the current object. So current object is mobile one. So it reference is getting printed. So next is after this particular line is executed, so we are trying to print the ID of mobile one. So at that case also, so same as both are same. So in the previous case, first mobile of 50,000 comma Apple. So we are passing the object. So what is the current reference? That is mobile one. So here we are printing again ID of mobile one. So both are going to be same. So both refer to mobile one only, right? So in the second case, we are having mobile 2 equal to mobile of 30,000 comma Samsung. So when this particular object is being created, so what will happen? ID of self. So this is a different object. So there will be a different ID for that, right? So this is the reference for mobile 2, ID of mobile 2 reference. So next is we are trying to print again ID of mobile 2, same only we are trying to print. So here ID of mobile 2 will be this one. So this both of this will be same, right? So here what is the point? So here when I try to print the ID of mobile 1 and mobile 2, so here both are referring to different object. So ID of mobile 1 and mobile 2 will be different. So next thing is, so next thing is predict the output for this one. So predict the output for this particular program. So you can give the answers in the chat box. So you can type at least the options either A or B. Yes, Vedanayagi ma'am, Jayalakshmi ma'am, Helen Vidya ma'am, Arul Modi, Sivamani ma'am, Satya ma'am, Arun Kumar. Yes, all are right. So here it will print nothing. So here class mobile def underscore underscore init. So we just have a constructor, that's it. So we have created two objects and there is no print statement related to any content here and all the syntax are right. So this particular program will print nothing. Yes. So here one more point that what we have to note. So instead of self, we have used yes. So instead of self, you can give any name. So that is also valid in that case. So this program will print nothing. So thank you all for the reply. So next question. So predict the output for this one. Yes, all are again right. Yes, it is option A. It will print nothing. Why? Because is that so here we are using self. So just like any other variable name, so we are using self as a variable name here. So that is assigned to price. So as per syntax, so no error in this particular piece of code. So it will print nothing, right? So the pointer self can be used as a variable as it is not a keyword. So next is so how to invoke method. So that we know. So generally we are following this syntax. So that is in order to invoke a particular method, you are using reference variable. For example, mobile one dot display. So like that. So mobile one is the reference variable. So next you are having the method name. That is your display, for example. So if any parameter need to be specified, we can specify the parameter, else no need. So next is also you can give like this. So class name dot method name. So for example, if class name is mobile, so mobile dot display of, maybe for example any reference variable if you want to pass, or in parameters in addition. So mobile one or self, whatever it is, you can pass like this. So both are allowed syntaxes. So we are commonly going by this one, that is reference variable dot method name. So using class name dot, that is class name dot method name. So within that you can give the reference variable or parameter. So that is also possible. So this is also one way of invoking your method inside the class. Right. So here we have created a reference, that is mobile one equal to mobile of 50,000 comma apple. So next is we have called the display method we have called using the class name. So mobile is the class name. So mobile dot display of mobile one. So this is the reference variable. So if any additional parameter you want to pass, so that is also you can give it here. So this is just a reference. So for example, comma price, comma brand. So like that, if you want to pass any additional parameter, that also you can pass. So mobile one dot display. So both are valid syntax. So either you can go by the first method or second method. So second method is just reference name dot display. So first method is class name dot display of. Inside this, you are giving the reference variable. So reference variable, comma, parameters, if any, to be passed. So both will print the same value. So Apple 50,000, Apple 50,000. Next is you can also pass as a collection of objects. So here we are having mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3, mobile 4. We are having 4 different objects. Right? So we are creating the objects as a list. So list of mobiles equal to, within square brackets, we are giving mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3, mobile 4. So this is going to be a list. So like that, using object, you can create a collection. So this is collection of objects. So we are having multiple objects. So multiple objects, we have posted it in a loop. Sorry, inside a collection. So how to access this particular collection? So like any other elements in list. So you will iterate through the members items in the list through loop. So similarly, you can iterate through the different objects in the list through a loop. Right? So let me go for an example. So program. So I have created only 3 different objects. Now we are creating a list, sample equal to, so we are having passing 3 different objects to the list. So mobile 1 comma mobile 2 comma mobile 3. So next is for I in sample print I dot price, comma, I dot brand. So here we have created three different objects, mobile 1, mobile 2, and mobile 3. So three different objects, and these three different objects we have created as a collection. So sample is the list name, and we have created a list called sample using three objects, mobile 1, mobile 2, mobile 3. So like any other element in the list, you can access the objects inside the list through a loop. So for I in sample, so print current object. First I is referring to mobile 1. So I dot price, comma, I dot brand. So it will print the objects corresponding price value and brand value, right? So next time it will refer to mobile 2, and next time it will refer to mobile 3. So like any other item in the list, so you can also access the objects. So this is the output. So three objects we are having. So all the three objects value is getting displayed. 50,000. So price and brand name. So here we are having four objects, and those four objects are created as a list, and all the items in the list are iterated through a for loop. And that's it for today's session. So here what we have learned today is, so what is a reference variable? So whenever an object is created, so the object is useless without a reference variable. So we should always keep a reference variable for an object in order to use it further. So that is the first point. So reference, all about reference variable. So next is using objects. So how to use objects? By using references only, we are going to use the object. So in that you can go for using pass by reference. So if I'm passing object as a reference, so what will happen if I'm making any changes inside the function, that will reflect outside the function also. That is the point. If you want to remember for pass by reference. So when I'm passing object as a reference to a particular function, so if I'm making any changes inside this function, so that will get reflected even outside the function. That is your pass by reference. So regarding self, you have to remember 2 points. One is self is not a keyword. So like any other variable, you can use self also. So that is the 2 point that you have to remember. So next is collection of objects. So using multiple objects, you can group multiple objects together and you can create it as a collection. And when you have created it as a collection, like any other items in that collection, you can access those items. So if we created it as a list, so you can iterate through any other items in the list, you can iterate through the loop. That is possible. And each and every object is associated with the ID. So if both objects are referring to the same object, both reference variable are referring to the same object, both will have same ID. So if both reference variable are referring to different object, you will have different ID for both. That is, you have to remember when you end up with a situation like whether you are having both objects are referring to the same object or not. If you have any conflict like that, at that situation, you try to print the ID of that particular object. So at that time, you will come to know that whether both objects are referring to the, both references are referring to the same object or different object. Thank you. If you have any query, you can ask now. Thank you all.